So we should be live now, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I would like to start by welcoming those members of the public and press who are watching this live screen of this meeting through the Council's YouTube page. As you will be aware, we are meeting virtually in line with the government guidance. Members, please could you keep your video camera switched on at all times with the microphone muted, except when you are invited to speak. You can indicate your wish to speak by raising your virtual hand. I will then invite you to speak. Please unmute your microphone, make your comment or questions, and then mute yourself again. Should we encounter any technical problems, I may adjourn the meeting while this is addressed. If the connection fails during the meeting and we're unable to reconnect, one of the Democratic Services team will contact you. Finally, I'd remind members that all virtual meetings are recorded. Thank you. I will now hand over to the Democratic Constitutional Service Manager, that's a title, isn't it? To do a roll call for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, so councillors, when I say your name, if you could just turn your microphone on and confirm your presence. So Councillor Allen.
Good morning, I'm present, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ayres.
I'm present too.
Thank you. We have apologies from Councillor Bashir. Councillor Sereste.
My body's here anyway.
Thank you. Councillor Farouk.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Yes, present.
Thank you. Councillor Hiller.
Yes, here, Pepper.
Thank you. We have apologies again from Councillor Seaton and Councillor Walsh.
Yes, I'm present, Pippa. Good morning.
Thank you. That's everyone, Chair.
Thank you very much. Before I go into the meeting, you'll all be aware that we've lost a good friend in ex-councillor Janet Goodwin. Could I just ask you to have a minute's reflection in her memory, please?
Councillor Holditch, sorry, you're on mute still.
Okay. I apologise to those members who wish to attend the funeral, although outside, but the health officer said that should not be the case. We mustn't gather outside. It's an unnecessary journey. So we weren't able to do it, but the council was well represented actually inside the crematorium. But we've done apologies. Declarations of interest, anybody? Don't see any. Thank you. The minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of November. Seems a long while ago, doesn't it? Can I have a proposer and seconder for those, please?
Yeah, happy to, John.
Right, Councillor Fitzgerald, seconder, please. Yeah, it was Councillor Allen, that was, I think. Yeah. Okay, all agreed? Thank you very much. Can I have same, please, for the meeting of the 30th of November?
Yeah, again, John, happy to do those.
Thank you. Have a seconder for that?
Yeah.
I'll take.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you pick up who that was, Pippa?
Got Councillor Ayres.
Okay. Okay. Petitions, Pepper, have we got any?
No, Chair, no petitions received.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, we're now going to item 5, the council tax base for 21-22. In the absence of Councillor Seaton, I've asked the director, Mr. Carpenter, if he will handle these reports for us. So over to you, Mr. Carpenter.
Thank you, Leader. The first report, which is the council tax base 21-22 and collection fund declaration for 2021, is a statutory report. This is required for the preparation of the council's budget. It informs the setting of the budget by setting the council tax base, and it's used the collection fund balances for both council tax and business rates in future years. Major precepting bodies must also be notified of the agreed tax base by the authority by the end of this month. The gross council tax base for 2021-22 is estimated at 66,098 Band D equivalents, after an allowance of 1.5 reduction, and this is for things such as items not being built or occupied, additional discounts being available for losses on collection. That number is still 0.9% higher than last year's equivalent, which was 64,502. Final adjustments are taken account of in terms of legislative changes, and this is mainly around the levels of the approved council tax support scheme. This reduces the overall figure to 59,714. This is 621 higher than last year. The council tax support scheme will be adjusted up from 32% to 33%, as was agreed in the council tax support scheme consultation paper agreed by Cabinet in February 2019. The collection fund is split into 2 sections. Council tax collection figure is estimated to be in deficit of 1.4 million at the end of this financial year. This will be shared between the council, the police and fire authorities in proportion to Band D council tax levels for 21-22. The business rate surplus is slightly more complicated, and apologies for the supplemental paper, but there's a lot of legislation coming out about this at the moment. At the moment, you will see a significant deficit in there of 45.5 million as at the 31st of March this year. However, this includes 41 million linked to business rate relief given to COVID-19, and so the balance of that is the non-collection for the year. This will be shared between the City Council, the government and the fire authority. These values at the moment are based on November data and will be updated for December data before the entry onto the NNDR1 form, which has to be submitted to the government by the 31st of January this year and is the key form in terms of looking at all the numbers. Due to COVID-19, regulations came into effect on the 1st of December to spread any deficit caused by COVID-19 over the next 3 years. The government are also funding 75 of the irrecoverable tax loss, and we are running through those calculations at the moment, and that will impact or affect tranche 2 of the budget. Respective council tax bases for each parish are set out in Appendix A. Cabinet are requested to approve the proposed council tax base, note the estimated positions on both the council tax and collection fund for business rates, and delegate authority to myself for the approval of the final estimated positions on the collection fund to be input on the relative forms at the end of this month. Thank you.
Right, members. Questions to Mr. Carpenter? Councillor Walsh.
Yes, thank you, Leader. Yeah, I'd like to ask Pete Carpenter, please, about the government support for the non-collection of council tax and business rates, and in his estimation, how helpful has that been? What significance is it going to have with regard to setting our budgets in the future as well? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. It's a great help this year, and I think there's been a lot of work over the last 2 to 3 months of councils with the government setting out what the deficits will be. We've got, we got guidance towards the end of December, and further guidance is still coming out on how this will really work and what numbers we actually put in place. And so that's why significant work has happened over the last week or so. It'd be nice if they funded 100%, but to be honest, 75% is very good, and it's in line with what the government funded in terms of the other losses of income in terms of the fees and charges support. So it's really welcome. I think where I'm more worried is next year, because what will the non-collection of council tax and national non-domestic rates be next year? As I've said already in the preamble, 41 million of business rates relief was given this year for retail, hospitality and leisure. Is that going to continue next year? And if not, how able are those businesses in those industries to actually pay business rates next year? And will we have a knock-on effect then in 22, 23? So it's very welcome, but I think it's a watching brief at the moment because we're talking about significant collection effects and collection amounts here, and we need to make sure that this is sustainable over time.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Councillor Farouk.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Pete. I've got just a quick question. How confident are you that the council tax base figure is correct as for every 1% change?
I don't think we heard a lot of that, mate. You're a Dalek.
Sorry, I think it's my internet. Can you hear me okay now?
Did you get enough of the question, Mr. Carpenter?
I think so. So I think what Councillor Farouk is asking is how confident are we with the 59,714 equivalent Band D figure? I think we're as confident as we can be. What we use is the revenue and benefit system in liaison with the valuation office to make sure that data that are putting the figures together is as good as possible. You don't want to pitch too high, otherwise you don't collect. You don't want to pitch too low because otherwise we would have a budget deficit to fill in on the other way. So it's the best figures we can use. And I think we've seen over the last number of years, our data is fairly accurate on our revs and ben systems as we've not really had significant changes for this. And it bears in line when you look at us year on year, we're a fast growing council in terms of our number of houses built a year, and we're roughly around that 1,000 each year going up. So I think we're pretty close to what we should plan. So I'm relatively comfortable with what we've got on our systems.
Thank you, Pete.
Okay, anybody else? I don't see anybody else. So are you happy to move to the recommendations? The recommendations are set out on page 16 of your pamphlet. Can I have a proposal, please? All right, Councillor Heller, seconder.
John.
Marco, thank you very much. Okay, do I see that as carried? Yeah.
Yep, there's no objection.
Okay. As it's a budget issue, in other meetings I'm on, we actually have to vote. But are you happy with that? That we've done that way?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
fine.
that's fine.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go to item 6 now, I believe, which is 21 to 42 in your book. Budgetary control report. Mr. Carpenter.
Thank you, Leader. We've brought reports to Cabinet since May that have set out the implications of COVID-19 and relative budget positions for the Council overall. We continue to track this on a weekly basis in terms of COVID numbers and updating all councils in Cambridgeshire with a joint paper to MPs on a monthly basis. This is the second time that actually everything has been in line. The October reports had the COVID and outturn numbers at the same point of time, and November is the second month of those. As of the end of November, our COVID-19 pressure had increased slightly to 39.3 million. We have 18.8 million of direct funding from the government and 17.4 million of ring fence funding, meaning the net pressure has come down to 3.1 million. So we're 92% funded. Our updated monitoring projection across all budgets shows a net overspend position to the end of November of 4.8 million. This is a 0.8 improvement on October. Key change to last month is a reduced pressure within education children's safeguarding area, with the forecast overspend of 1.1 million now being revised to 0.4 million. And the main increase here is a requirement for residential places in order to free hospital capacity. We do need to keep a watching brief around this budget, as again, it could be quite volatile in the future, but our latest estimates are at this point. Council's overall position is 1.7 million worse than the COVID position. An updated detailed analysis of the over and underspendings is in Appendix A. Collection rates for council tax are now only 1% lower than last year. However, we're still slightly concerned that the business rate collection rate is 19.2% lower, which is slightly worse than the October position. We're now paying out the following grants either directly to businesses or individuals following the Prime Minister's announcements on the 31st of October and 4th of January. And I bring the 31st of October in because obviously this is the November monitoring report, and so that's slightly more relevant to this than some of the announcements made on the 4th of January. Test and trace payments of £500 had been made, 267 in total. We're making about a third of the payments of applications, which is in line with reports that have come out recently for the rest of the country. We've made at the end of November, made 495 payments totaling 810k for the local restrictions closed business grant, and had only just launched the additional restrictions grant. The appendix also contains the updated items on the capital programme. Reserve levels project 4.2 million of usable reserves and a general fund balance of 6 million at the end of March. Cabinet are asked to note the recommendations in the report, especially requirements to continue to lobby for additional funding. And of course, I'm in negotiations with the Director of Finance from MHCLG at the moment on our position for next year. Happy to answer any questions, Leader.
Councillor Hiller.
Yes, thank you, Leader. You'll excuse me coming off video. My connection is unstable here in the rural area. It tends to be on a Monday morning, so I apologise for that. Just a quick question for Mr. Carpenter. How effective are the grants that are being distributed to local?
I think we are more effective on the closed business grants at the moment than the additional restrictions ones, which were the open ones. So we revised the open scheme last week to make it applicable and easier to apply for. We have to date given out 613 grants worth £1 million for the closed scheme in November. We also made another 543 grants worth 450k in the final 2 weeks of December when the council moved to Tier 3 and then Tier 4. What I just want to note as well is on those closed schemes and following the Chancellor's announcement on, it would have been the 6th of January, we will be giving out closed businesses this week. It should be in their accounts Wednesday, Thursday, around another £4.5 million worth of payments to about 587 businesses to coincide with what the members are saying. On the additional restrictions grant, we've now had over 400 applications, and for those applications, people do not need to apply again for the slightly revised scheme that went out last week. We're reviewing things through that, and we'll be looking at the applications and applying that to the funding we can give out over the next week or two.
Thanks for that, Pete. It sounds to me as though you and your team are doing a damn good job. So congratulations and more power to you all. Thanks, Pete. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Sereste.
Yeah, thank you for letting me in. I do have to compliment Peter and his team on the way they've dealt with these grants, and even more importantly, the way that the staff are fed back to people that have been making inquiries. As you know, you gave me the job of bringing back the city centre and also sitting on the Business Improvement District board. And I can absolutely assure you that the feedback from those businesses, whilst they are all struggling and they're all in difficulty, as most businesses that are in that sector are, the feedback is very, very good. So I'd like to join Peter in complimenting Peter's team and well done. And the reaction at the moment is extremely favourable.
Thank you.
Good. Councillor Ayres.
Thank you, Leader. Can I ask you, Peter, about the business rates collection? How concerned are you? Because it seems to be a considerable amount outstanding. So how concerned is that making you?
As we talked about slightly in the previous paper, I'm concerned about next year particularly. We collect around 120 million and in business rates, and obviously it doesn't all come back to us at the moment. We're going to move down, if fair funding reviews are implemented over the next couple of years, to where the councils are significantly funded by business rates and council tax and less funded by government and central government pots. I say we've had a third of businesses that have been given exemption from paying business rates this year. How able are those businesses to pay next year is quite worrying, because we really don't have much intelligence on that at the moment. And this level of non-payment on the other businesses, although obviously we will chase and look to chase properly on those on non-payments, but it's a difficult time at the moment. It's also slightly concerning because it will flow through into future years. So it's something we need to watch, and our non-payment levels are slightly higher than people in other areas, not massively, but just slightly at the moment, although they have been coming down over time until this month. So hopefully that's only a blip, and they will continue to fall in terms of the non-payment, Councillor Ellis.
So I'd imagine that it's been affected by the further lockdown. Would you think?
Could do, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Councillor S. Mr. Carpenter, you keep trotting out how many millions you've handed out in grants. Do you know what the total is?
I can get you an accurate figure, but if you take account of everything we've just got under £40 million worth of grant to support the council in its operations. We've given £41 million worth of business rate relief, which is another grant. We gave out £32 million in terms of these grants between April and September, in terms to specific businesses, but mostly in hospitality, leisure and retail. At the moment, we've got grant schemes up and running in terms of business for about another 8 or 9 million. So at the moment, from my calculations, that's something like £120 million on 40 different grants from 5 different departments.
You just think that for a medium-sized city like Peterborough, what the cost of it is across the country, it's enormous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So the business rate relief, or holiday it was called, do they have to pay that back, or is that a pure grant?
No, that's a pure Section 31 grant, and on the first paper that alludes to the £41 million in the supplemental paper that came around on Friday from the calculations we're doing. So we will get that from something called a Section 31 grant.
Okay. Any other members wish to question? No. Can I then move to the...
I think Councillor Allen's got a question.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Allen. Yes, you have.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Bearing in mind that this is a dynamic process, how do you see the end of year position, please?
I hope the gap will come down even further. One of the other big differences between when we did the November monitoring and now is the fact that all councils who had an outsourced provider for leisure had to apply by midday on Friday for part of the £100 million pot for leisure. Obviously, our application has gone in, and hopefully we'll get significant funding from that. It won't be all of the money we require, but their initial estimate was something like £500,000. We've obviously gone slightly higher than that because we think our losses that were applicable based on how their scheme was set out between December and April will be slightly more than that, but we will see over the next couple of weeks how successful we are in terms of the final amount of money there. So that should bring things down. However, it is a volatile situation and things are changing every day. We'll see as we go through, Councillor Allen. But I'm hopeful that our monitoring is on top of everything at the moment, and it is the present position.
Thank you very much.
Okay, these negotiations which are ongoing with government about our grant, when do you think we will get the final figure?
My deputy Kirsty Nutton was in a meeting a week ago Thursday with the Secretary of State and his Director of Finance, where they set out that the negotiations with councils for additional funding, if councils needed exceptional funding, as they called it, finished as of Saturday. So I'm quite hopeful that we will hear over the next week and a half where we've been and what position we're in. I did mail my counterparts in MHCLG on Monday, Tuesday last week, and they came back to me to say there's no more questions to ask at the moment, and we are talking to ministers in the department about the Peterborough position now. I've had no questions yet. I will do another chaser today. Obviously, it's a two-stage process, though. First of all, the ministers in MHCLG need to understand our position and be happy with what we're asking for. Then they've got to actually have also a negotiation with Treasury.
Okay, now because it does affect when you can set the budget. I know we've altered all the dates of where we can discuss it in council, but we do need to know as soon as possible. Okay, thank you, members. You've got a list of recommendations on page 21. Can I have a proposer for those, please?
Happy to propose those, John.
Councillor Fitzgerald, seconder, please.
Happy to second, John.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Do I have any dissensions? Are you all happy? If you're not happy, please show. No, you happy with that?
There are no
Fiona? Yeah, thank you very much. I think I'm going now to petitions. We don't have any, do we? Deborah? Petition?
We've just got one petition to note in relation. We had the antisocial behaviour near Sargent Street petition, just to note the outcome of that. The response is set out in the report.
Okay. So I think that concludes today's business, doesn't it? Are we there? Are you happy that we've covered everything? Yeah, okay, right. Thank you, officers. Thank you, members. Have a good rest of the day. You've probably got an hour and a half to spare now.